This episode of Speakers of Eidolon is made possible by our generous patrons, like Omejicat Comet, Saray Cypher, Hans Grenade, Anna Ginteres, Bob Cece, Faris Gentoru, Cletus Oreo, Luke Leonatrell, Sapa Chakwatol, Courtney, Circa Barrakiel, Casey Schaefer, Lily Black, Chaitan, Cheshire Saltiri, Erisu Yamakawa, Sisirifula Lirifu, Daimos, Nina Grimsdaughter, Asuta Starbreeze, Quick Levin, Sayori Snowfall, Yuana Nitsa, Miscellaneous Cargo, Duke Jarlsberg, Stella Bell, Yernthota Aurora, Boogie Bear, Remy Asalia, Cirrus, Icy Lee, Lyria Rain, CNG Lipscomb, Dalamud Papodo, Kaisa Regina, Pamela Isley, Umbral Wind, and Zachary Walton. Support the show and become a patron today at patreon.com/speakersxiv. Thank you.
This is Speakers of Eidolon.
Good evening, Aorcians. Welcome to Speakers of Eidolon, episode 160. I'm Lakeel Bravestone. I'm joined today by Georgi Wiston and Mal of Anadar.
Hello.
Hello. This episode is going to focus primarily on the Pax West panel that took place on Sunday? Saturday?
Last Sunday.
Last Sunday.
Yeah, after minimum level.
Right after
Yes.
minimum level, yes. With Ishikawa and Suzuki, we will talk about the panel and then we'll read some interviews. There have been quite a lot of interviews in the wake of Pax West, so we will read through them today and discuss and all that. Stay tuned for the post-show. We have no idea what's going on there. There were some ideas thrown around. Not all of them as good as I'd hoped. So we just stay tuned for the post show if you're watching live. Yeah. Right. So let's just talk about what we've done in 14 this week. Let's just start with that. Also, we'll read MogMail. SpeakersXIV.com/MogMail. Georgi, you've done so much. Let us know what's happened.
That's very
I'm just gonna lean
exaggerated.
back
I've
and
done
listen.
so much.
Yeah, thanks, Yogi.
I leveled up like Fisher in one day. That was fun. It was surprisingly easy. I was expecting it to be a bit more like time consuming.
Uh-huh.
Tell us more about that.
I mean,
Tell us more about that. Yes.
the Fisher quest line at the quest line main is not that interesting. I don't think there was anything that it was worse than the mining and botany one. So that's not exactly a selling point. And I've also been leveling warrior on my Ragnarok character so that I will have one of each role available, which we will need soon.
Yes. Okay. Mala?
Oh, where to start? Well, I've done so much. Even today, actually, I've done 2 roulettes.
Nice.
Oh.
So that's quite impressive.
Very impressive. Very cool.
Which roulettes?
I did trials and normal race because they're the quickest. We did Eden, but unfortunately, one member of our raid group, and I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to shame them live on there. Wasn't present, and so we couldn't do any prog.
Right.
So it felt like a bit of an unfortunate week in that regard.
Yeah.
And so
Yes.
I just had to drown most of my sorrows for the rest of the week. So I'm really been sober enough to play.
Yeah.
Lakeel?
I've been leveling Paladin sometime this
You
week,
have
according to
been?
Georgi. So there's that.
I mean, I've seen you as a paladin inside a leveling dungeon. I have to assume you were leveling paladin.
Ah, yes. Was that this week? I can't. Okay, I guess I
It
did.
was at least one time this week.
I think I did it with my with the trusts probably.
Okay.
Oh, and I did some yesterday. With yes, with my brother. That's true because he came back for Shadowbringers.
He's back, guys.
Testing out Gunbreaker. So there's that, and I didn't play Paladin then. I played Dancer. Anyways, so I did that as well, and then the raid thing, no prog, just sadness.
We had a nice Frenchman join us.
A very nice
Usually
Frenchman.
the Frenchmen are usually nice when we're doing Savage. Like the first time this same person wasn't present.
Yeah.
We got a nice Frenchman who stayed around for about 7 hours.
I thought they were Espanol the first time.
No, it was that
No, he was
guy.
Definitely French. The one who wasn't a plane, definitely French.
Yeah, the one who wasn't a plane.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I remember now.
Great guy.
Right, so that's what we've done in 14. Not a lot, but then again, we've sort of done... Well, there's just leveling, which isn't really that exciting. Also,
there's leveling in prog, and we didn't even have a chance to prog. So.
Yeah. So also Rollo, maybe next week. We might just be saying this every week, but for a while. But target next week, I think, or So hopefully he'll be back by then. More complications, unfortunately. Right. I guess it's time to move on. We have quite a lot to talk about today, so we just need to move to recent events. And in recent events, we start with the latest Tales from the Shadows.
Okay.
Yeah, because the other stuff is so far removed from everything. This isn't news, technically, I guess. But let's just get that out of the way. Spoilers for the latest Tales of the Shadows. This one's called Echoes of Delusion. It's very short, and most of it's kind of interesting because a big part of this... so I will wave...
Oh yeah, you got to get the Allen Key of Justice.
I might not have it. I might have just put it away now. So.
Well, do you have a replacement?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I have a straw, Georgi.
Oh.
Amazing.
I'll wave the straw when the spoilers are over. Spoilers start now. Wait, have you muted already? Because if you have muted, sorry. Okay, whatever. When I wave, I wave this again. Sorry, audio listeners, you hate this. I'm sorry, but when I wave this again,
this would be the best part of my commute.
When I wave this again, we're done. Okay, I'm not gonna wave it again. Spoilers start now.
Okay.
So it's about Estinian.
Yes.
A big chunk of it is like not recapping, not a big chunk, but like a tiny part. It's like slightly recapping the job quest for Dragoon.
Dragoon, yeah.
And it's also, it assumes, one, you've done the level 70 Dragoon job quest, and that you've also completed the Four Lords quest line.
That's true.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very strange. What I do like about it, though, is that it sort of tells us why Estinian was at the end of Stormblood, the original MSQ.
That's true.
Because that was very...
And you get a good... I've not done the Dragoon quest, so you might get more of it there, but you get a good insight into his character, that he basically hates doing anything.
Yeah.
He's very lazy. Just wants to wander around eating...
I know, it's very relatable.
Mm-hmm.
Shrimp.
But he can't turn it down once the question is asked. kind of, because
That's true.
there's like this whole part in the story where he's like trying to avoid Tataru and Kryl. And
But they kept finding him.
They kept
which
finding
I guess
him.
was like a funny joke, but
Yeah.
really, would they actually be able to? I don't think so.
I don't know.
I mean, he's a dragoon. He can just jump around.
I mean,
like he does.
Kugane isn't that big, and I'm sure,
I'm sure Kryl has means of getting around.
Yeah.
She's evil.
Yeah.
She's evil. I mean,
Yeah, because she pretended to have an echo flashback.
Yeah, she did.
that's true. Kryl does have this ability to sense people's ether, so she can track them.
I suppose that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So it also explains, in addition to explaining why he showed up at the end of the Stormblood MSQ, it also explains how Estinian got caught up in the Garlean storyline that's going on in Shadowbringers now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because this is basically how he was recruited by Kryl and Tataru to destroy Black Rose. And that's the story.
Yeah, there's not really much to it. It's just sort of like filling in the gaps without really providing any like much further insight than we already had into Estinian's character.
Yeah.
And I would say Estinian. It's not that Estinian can't say no, because he'd happily say no.
Yeah.
It's that he was blackmailed into doing this.
Yeah. Fake blackmail too, which is like the there was also like it was more of a comical tale. It felt like it was very lighthearted with him go on.
It's probably one of the funniest like side stories they've ever had. Like most of them are kind of serious, even if they're like they're not all dark, but like they're not taken as like comedy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's pretty cute and whimsical, but
yeah,
we definitely need a novel.
Right. Anything else to add to that? It's worth reading if you haven't
not
read it
read
already.
it. Even though we've told you roughly what happened, it's still worth reading it.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting Estinian to get a Tales from the Shadow.
No,
that's true.
But
if he did, it would have been a later one. I feel like
I would have expected one to be more likely from Tataru and Kryl's perspective than Estinian's.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's true.
What is Kryl doing now, by the way? Do we even know?
I think she's still working with Matoya. She's still working with Matoya to find a way to get the Scions back.
There was the Matoya
Last
thing.
I heard, she'd figured out cloning technology. She's everywhere.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on from this.
We'll be Kryl now.
Yeah.
Oh God! Don't remind me. Okay, we're done. Here, welcome back. If you've muted us, we are back for spoilers.
You're doing it too fast.
Oh, sorry. Do you want me to? Oh, it's okay.
They might have just, if they'd lost those frames, who knows what would happen.
Yeah.
Your eyes might not be able to handle that many frames.
That's true. Speaking of written stories, there's a writing contest. Currently,
a contest that a non-artistic person can do. Hooray!
Yeah.
Well, visual artists.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were wondering if this had happened before. I can't remember, but I also feel like
there has been.
There might have been one.
Yeah, I think there has been.
Because
they've also done like those comic competitions where you have to do like a small caption contest, and I think they've done a writing contest.
I thought the comic ones were like you had to take like 4 screenshots, like a 4 screenshot comic.
Yeah. This is more of a written contest. The Rising has returned to Eorzea, and adventurers across the realm are gathering numerous messages in bottles that feature heartfelt words from far and wide. To celebrate our 6th anniversary, the community team calls upon adventurers to put pen to paper and craft their own message in a bottle. Reminisce on your tales of friendship, challenges, and triumph to bring forth your own memoir. You never know who will be reading your message. That's the pitch. The theme, write creatively about your fondest memory of playing Final Fantasy XIV. Entry period is between Monday, September 2nd, so it's already underway, until Monday, September 16th at 7 p.m. PST.
Is that short for a contest?
It is and especially for like a written contest too. Like yeah, it is a bit of a tight schedule there, but
we're already half into it.
Yeah,
it does say later that the character limit is the space of a forum post, which is 3,000 characters, so it can't be that long.
There's a few paragraphs, but that makes it harder, if anything.
Yeah.
So he's asking more from memory than a story.
Yeah. They're saying like write creatively though, so they're like asking for a little effort.
Yeah.
It is a contest.
Every story has a little bit of embellishment.
True. So this is what they require you to put into your submission. Create a writing that recounts your personal favorite or fondest memory of playing Final Fantasy XIV. Each entry, which includes the narrative and your selection from the available in-game prices, as discussed below, cannot exceed the 3,000 character limit of the post. So that's the limit. Screenshots or illustrations may be included with your entry, but they are optional and not required. Screenshots or illustrations will have no bearing on the judging. No more than 4 total optional screenshots or illustrations may be included. And then
that's very similar to the comic contest.
Yes.
I'm gonna write like the greatest story ever, but I'm going to do like MS Paint illustrations that massively distract from the quality, but obviously they can't judge it.
Yeah.
I'll see if I win.
Yeah.
Just submit a Liqueur Bravestone comic.
Oh, yeah, do one of the Bravestones. Quick Bravestone.
Yes. You must also abide by the following rules and guidelines. You must not include any personal information in your entry, so don't dox yourself. Entries may not be edited after submission, so you can't. So you have to be sure.
Yeah, make sure to edit it before you post. Like write it in a Word document or.
There's only one entry per person. If multiple entries submitted by the same entrant are posted, only the first entry submitted will be considered. The Final Fantasy XIV community team will select 50 winners based on quality, creativity, originality, and overall execution according to the criteria listed below. So quality of the narrative, creativity of the narrative, and originality of the narrative.
I mean, you just said those 3 things. I don't know why they need to say.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh yeah, they did. Okay, well,
that's funny.
There you go. Not promising for a writing contest.
No.
I mean, they're not paid for this.
True. The 50 total winners will each receive 1 in-game item of their choice from the items below. So there's the Gala Cap, Noble Barding. This is the regular stuff. The Araman Choker or the Mandragora Choker.
Never pick the Scarf of Wondrous Wit.
The Scarf of Wondrous Wit. Pick that one.
Just put it in there. If you're going to pick anything, the Gala Cap is the obvious choice.
Yeah.
And if you already have the Gala Cap, I guess the Noble Barding.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
and then the Chokers.
You must be a legal resident of the 50 states of the United States of America, the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, or Canada, excluding Quebec. Have a valid have a valid North American Square Enix account and be over the age of 13 to enter. So none of the other regions
over the age of 13.
I know. I'm sorry. Well, you couldn't have joined either.
Stories won't be.
Yeah.
No fan fiction.
Sorry, Europeans and literally everyone else.
Sorry, world, except for America.
World, except for America.
I mean, there are Americans that can't enter this competition. There are American territories that are not listed here.
Well, that's true. But
if anyone's watching from Puerto Rico, let me know.
I'm sure there might be. Puerto Rico.
I'm sure there might be. Yeah, that's the thing.
And then again, on the topic of contests, another contest is underway. The furniture design contest is back.
This one's always fun. I like this one.
Yeah, we got some of the best furniture designs in the game because of this contest last year.
Yeah, and it's fun going through them all.
Yeah,
or 2 years ago, I guess now.
Yeah. 2 years have passed since artisans across the realm answered the call from the guild masters of the 3 city-states to submit fresh and unique furnishing designs. Over that time, these designs and crafts have proven very popular, and numerous items have found their way into homes of many adventurers. The time has come to gather new ideas, and guild masters have posted another open invite. And this is their invite. This reminds me of a 1.0 Lodestone post, because we rarely see in-game posts like this.
This has more creativity than the creative writing.
They did this for the last furnishing contest as well.
For some reason, the furnishing contest is like...
So it's much more immersive. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess because this will actually end up in-game.
True.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. Adventurers of the Realm. In recent years, the furnishings that adorn the homesteads of Hydaelyn have undergone something of a renaissance. Thanks to the fact that they have that term in Eorzea is a little strange.
That's true.
I wonder what it applies to.
In
Eorzea.
When they went from stone technology to iron.
I mean, that's... okay.
Thanks
Magic
to...
tech?
I don't think we're supposed to think about it too much. I don't think it actually has any lore implications. Thanks in no small part to the efforts of well-traveled artisans bringing revolutionary designs from far and wide. If it was to come from somewhere, it would have come from like Amdapur. Because they have...
you've gone back to Renaissance.
Yeah.
I thought you
I was thinking, because they were very...
because they had the enlightening in the very literal sense of the word.
Yeah,
That's
and they were like, they made like statues, and they were like, it was very...
It could always just be a term that they might use in the future. They've invented the word, but they're not sure when to use it yet.
Yes. And
Stop thinking about it.
I was going to say, maybe they... Nope.
No, okay, let's leave it. Let's leave it. However, our patrons have an insatiable hunger for even more eye-catching and luxurious items with which to impress their guests. We, the guild masters of Eorzea, are therefore appealing to those possessed of a refined sense of aesthetics to share with us their most inspired ideas, that we may line our shelves with fresh selection of products to tantalize our clientele. Whether they be wildly impractical or ignore the laws of physics entirely, it matters not. Pray, let your imaginations run rampant.
That's the best sentence.
Yeah.
Well, I know their player base.
Yeah.
What are you going to submit them?
I mean, we've talked about toilets, and I do hope someone just makes a toilet and puts it and submits that.
Why don't you submit a diagram of how to build a toilet chair?
Yeah.
Because we know they have plastic bags now.
That's true.
Yes.
I'd quite like the pudding rug, but without the pudding head and slightly transparent, slightly see-through.
Of course you would.
That's what I'm going to submit, so I can improve the soup kitchen evermore.
What say you, adventurer? Do you have an idea you've been bursting to share? A new furnishing you've been dying to place in your own home? This is the time to share them. Please read through the rules below, blah, blah, blah. So, you must, of course, possess an active 14 account at the time of submission and agree to the criteria written below. There's a lot of, below, read this below.
You must be over 18 for this one.
Yeah, you do. The design contest started on September 5th and will last until Monday, October 7th.
Why is this so much longer?
I don't know.
Because it requires so much more skill.
Okay.
Any furnishings aside from housing exteriors, so roofs, roof decorations, exterior walls, exterior wall decorations, windows, doors, placards, and fences. So don't make any of that.
Imagine inventing a new placard.
Well, to be fair, there are very few placards in the game.
No, I agree.
There are.
And the outside decorations are actually... They should be more modular.
Yeah.
I should be able to have, the Chocobo house, but with the Moogle walls or something.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you can now.
Can you?
I don't believe so.
I
You
thought-
can with the like the shroud walls with the glade house.
Yeah,
I think you can
those
do that now,
things
but
are
you can't do
modular.
it with
Yeah.
the good ones.
No. So there are 100 winning entries here. So 14 development team and operations team will select the 100 winning entries. Winner announcements is planned to be done via the Lodestone in or around October of 2019. And the prizes?
Cloud hair. It looks kind of cute on that Makoto. It doesn't look super bad.
No, it doesn't look good. I'm sorry.
I think that's.
I don't like
Yeah.
it.
It's not a
it
good.
looks-
It doesn't look good. It's too.
I
don't know what it is.
Too
show me a
blocky.
character that looks good with it, and I will
Yeah.
reconsider.
Yeah.
Well, there aren't any.
I have yet to see a
It's so
single.
jarring.
Yeah. Single one.
Well, I
that's
haven't
good
yet to
look
see it
this
as well
year.
because not many people have it yet.
That's true. Price delivery will be in December 2019, so you have to wait for a bit. There's a submission form that you have to fill out to join.
Which again is really like cool and lore appropriate almost. It's
Yeah.
like, really nice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then you have to, of course, attach an image of your entry. Imagine if you didn't. You just fill in the thing and just send it in.
It's a toilet.
It's a toilet. You shit in it. Right. That's about it. You know the rest. But yeah,
Yeah.
it is, like Mela said, it is very nicely themed, the submission form. It has like
Yeah.
a
It's
nice
got,
design.
Like
Yeah.
scrolled edging.
Mhm.
It looks like a Renaissance piece.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Someone submit the owl.
We have left that behind long ago, Georgi.
Georgi, no.
We do not bring that one back up. This is a
I didn't bring it
podcast
up.
episode. Children are listening to this.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Okay, in other news, Square Enix support. We rarely hear from them, but now here they are.
Challenge themselves.
Yes, absolutely. They have announced a social media support pilot program. What is this pilot program, you ask? Well, here's the post. We're pleased to announce the launch of a new pilot program dedicated to facilitating Final Fantasy XIV and Square Enix account-related customer support via Twitter and Facebook in North America. The limited test is designed to offer support through social media channels so that we can evaluate the potential benefits of additional customer support options. Well, it starts November 29th.
That's a
sorry,
while away.
Sorry. To run through. It'll end on November 29th.
Oh,
I think
okay.
it's already started.
Okay.
The social media pilot program is a limited time test created to help us experiment with new avenues to support to evaluate their effectiveness. Good luck. But I mean, it's not uncommon for companies to have Twitter support. Like a lot of companies do that. So I'm not surprised that they're trying this. We've talked about Square Enix support before. It's, sometimes we've had... I mean, I've mostly just read horror stories. I haven't actually experienced horror stories.
No, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The few times I've actually been in contact with support, I've received the help that I require. But this is going to be full... They're going to get so many... When it's this available... You're going to get a lot of requests about everything. Like, oh, I lost 5 gil when I logged in the other day. What is this? Why did that happen? I swear I lost 5 gil. I don't know. I don't know how many of those they're going to get, but...
Imagine using your one-time item return policy on 5 gil.
Oh. Well, if you have that right, I guess, to do that. So
And, this is live feedback on it, but the majority of their replies are this sounds like, blah blah blah. Please DM us for further assistance.
Yeah.
I mean,
because they obviously can't solve like account-based
No.
stuff
But why
through
not?
replies. Well, at least it goes into they slide into the DMs, and
Yeah, it just seems weird.
it's still going on Twitter, so it's like live support.
I guess so. Yeah.
I'm not expecting them to be like, oh, give us your login details on Twitter so everyone can see it.
I think
Twitter
it should
is-
be.
Normal Twitter posts are not the means by which to provide like meaningful feedback.
No.
What I often find though is that when they
you have to submit it via the normal, like at Square Enix support, I need help with this, and then they have to reply and they say, please slide into our DMs.
the thing that's good though is that with having it on Twitter, when you visit their Twitter profile, you can maybe see some of the replies, and maybe
That's
someone had the
true,
same
yeah.
problem as you, and it was resolved, and then you'll be like, oh, that's what I have to do. So you don't actually have to like contact support.
That's true.
There's
That
also
would be easier on Facebook because I don't think they put full solution on Twitter. I think you'd likely get that in DMs. Where on Facebook, it's much easier for them to reply with all the information you need in the comment.
True.
Facebook.
Of course, I was going to say it requires you to be on Facebook.
Please take care. Okay, so it opens another can of worms, which they have realized. Please take care when interacting with social media accounts for support, as similarly named accounts may be used in a malicious manner. Do they have the check mark?
Live
I don't
update
know.
on that. They do verify.
Okay, they do. That's good. Okay, so it is easier to avoid getting
Yeah,
spammed.
and it says it's the official account and blah blah blah.
Yeah. Okay.
Not many followers yet.
No.
437.
Well, why would you
and they're not
follow Square Enix support before this? I don't know.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's good though, because although they've not done many, they have posted a support tip on how to. So they could post like
Yeah.
Different tips and tricks.
Yeah.
So that's alright. That's cool.
Yeah. So during the pilot period, we'll be monitoring Twitter and Facebook for potential customer support issues. Users can also reach out to the official support accounts directly by tweeting/sending a direct message to the account listed above, or by messaging us on Facebook. So they will literally be monitoring Twitter to look for people like complaining about issues.
Yeah.
So you might actually just get a reply from Square Enix support.
That's true. Yeah, that's a really nice way
Yeah.
of doing it.
Yeah.
That's
I mean-
a little bit above and beyond, really.
Yeah.
That's very similar to a lot of like companies when people make complaints on
Yes.
social media that they will respond like, "What is your exact problem?
Yeah.
Please let us contact you,
Yeah.
and maybe we can resolve your issue."
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah. So it started on September 3rd. That's when it started. So it's active right now, and it'll conclude on the 29th. And it's
of
opened
November.
24 hours a day,
Of
7 days
November.
a week. Sorry, November. 29th of November.
I mean, define open. Does that mean they have people constantly checking 24 hours?
Social media support will be
Wow.
offered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week during the
Yeah,
above period.
they can say that.
Well, they don't, well, we'll see how it goes.
Well, we'll see how it goes.
Come on,
Fine,
let's
limited
test it out.
insights.
Let's all send them questions.
Let's
at
not do
different
that.
times of the-
Let's not do
No,
that.
no.
No.
Unless you actually need help.
Yeah.
But yeah, with our limited insight into customer support 14, they're quite understaffed, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So unless this has opened up a lot of new jobs for a month or two,
Also, remember
we'll see.
this is NA only.
that's true. It's NA only.
Yeah.
Please do, if you actually have an experience during this period, MogMail us or something, just so we know how it goes.
Yes. So if let's see how we need some feedback.
But don't force it on them, because
No, don't do
No.
that. Don't do that.
Please have an actual problem.
Yeah.
Don't make one up.
During the social media support pilot, support will be restricted to the following. Social media support during the pilot is only available to customers with a North American Square Enix account. Social media support during the pilot is only available in English. Social media support during the pilot is only available for Square Enix accounts and Final Fantasy XIV issues. Some support issues may require an alternate form of contact, so it would be referred to the appropriate contact method. For security purposes, personal data or information will not be requested through Twitter or Facebook. Should personal data or information be necessary for support, such as verifying account ownership, we will request it be submitted through the Square Enix Support Center.
That's fair enough.
Yeah. So there you go. Pretty basic for the. I mean, this isn't really breaking new ground. Other companies do this already and has done it for years. But
They have, but it's nice for Square Enix to join them.
Yeah. It is very NA only. So here's the thing. The reason why it's NA only is because they think, and I think to a degree they might be right, a lot of Europeans don't speak English. And they just can't be bothered having like multiple languages supported. They don't need to. I think they would do just fine in Europe in English. But whatever.
But the game's offered in 3 European languages.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't there a law that you generally have? Yeah, that you have to provide support for things that you provide language support for.
I think you probably do have to.
Yeah, you probably do have to do that. That's their own fault, though. They should have just locked it to English only. They should have just been like, this
then
game
they would have made less. Then they could have made less sales. Why would they do that?
Well, there you go. That's the explanation. Right. Next, we have an interview. This is MMORPG.com. This is from Gamescom, so it's kind of old hat, but it's like the last sort of interview we'll touch on from that.
You
event.
say that. But
I do say that.
we'll see.
But yeah, who knows? They all these publications all have the slow drips, so there might just eventually be like, oh, here it is, the Gamescom interview.
Well, MMORPG at least dropped it all in one.
That's true. Thank you.
Article.
RPG.com.
And it has some interesting stuff.
Yes.
It has, we just picked out the best bits.
Yeah. Right, so with the Shadowbringers launch, a recent memory, and the 5.x content reign well underway, it felt like the perfect time to learn how a Final Fantasy XIV expansion is made. We also knew that Square Enix had taken the first steps to planning 6.0, starting a roughly 2-year development cycle to the next expansion. But what's involved? Yoshida-san explained how it starts with a central push to shape the expansion before farming it out to teams that jump between current and future content. Now it made sense. For prepping for 6.0, the tasks that require the biggest resources are creating the map and zones. Those graphics need to be done beforehand. But in order for them to create that, we need to decide where the adventure will take place and who will be the main antagonist. With that, we kick off the creation of 6.0.
Have they not picked the main antagonist for 6.0 yet?
They're probably... Well, they're going to be... I think they've already done the 3-day base camp.
Yeah.
So they probably have hashed out these ideas now.
Quite recently, it should have been done.
They've been over the summer period, I think.
Yeah.
So they'll know at this point.
Yeah. Because they started on the Shadowbringers one in 2017.
Yeah.
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 So they do this well in advance because there's a lot of assets that need to be worked on.
Yeah. While we're working on 5.x tasks, the artwork teams complete their first design and then send it back to me. I then remember, I need to also work on 6.0 and not just 5.x. We have this dynamic workflow here, depending on where we are at the moment. The ratio of work will depend on where we are in the timeline. Currently, our focus is on 6.0, then back to 5.x. But the ratio will gradually shift towards the expansion as release approaches. It's absurd reading that already. Because we just had an expansion. But yeah.
Yeah. They seem to be more coy about the development cycle in the earlier years of the game. But now they're pretty open about how it works.
Yeah.
I imagine it was very chaotic back. Well, they've told us it was very chaotic. They probably didn't want to project that back then.
Yeah. They thought that Heaven Sword was going to be the swan song of the game.
Yeah.
So that's true.
Now they're sort of... I think they're clearly doing this to let new players know that the game is going to continue. It's worth playing this game because there's another expansion coming. It's on the horizon.
They sort of have faith that they'll be able to keep going at least for one more expansion, if not more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
first off, we would have a meeting with all the main scenario writers and lock ourselves in a meeting room for 3 days. During this session, we come up with the area where the adventure takes place, the overall plots, and the kind of enemies that the Warrior of Light will be facing. We build up this concept first. We do this for each patch, creating 2 years' worth of content up front. Once the basic concept is mapped out, what happens next is that the team digs deeper and explores more. We prioritize the scenes, cutscenes, and quests that need to be voiced over. The reason is that Final Fantasy XIV is available in 4 languages, and we need to prioritize those that require recording voiceovers. Commissioning the story doesn't go by the timeline. We need to prioritize this first, then we work on non-voice next.
I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It means that anything that's voiced was the most planned out.
Yeah.
they
Once it's
had to
voiced,
get that done as soon as possible.
Yeah.
yeah. Anything that's voiced, they have to build the story around that from then on, or they have to just cut.
That yeah. And you know, they clearly don't want to cut anything. Right, even though I was a fan of past games on the Super Nintendo and stuff, the core demographic of players in Final Fantasy XIV are now in their mid-20s to mid-30s. We need something more mature and major in the game to make it interesting for them. Yoshida-san added, speaking about people, they always have a good side and a bad side to them, but they all come from a different background. Because the background is jarring, that leads to conflict, and that makes real life very complicated. I want to bring that to the game and make it more real.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting. I think they all played all the old Final Fantasies as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't read that last paragraph.
No.
I don't know why you put it there.
It's interesting that they're trying to bring in, more sort of realistic and mature themes to the game as it goes along as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It'll set it out as a good main entry.
It is starting to feel more like a realistic, as realistic a plot as you can make in a fantasy world like Eorzea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas
believable.
back in I can't speak to 1.0, but back in 2.0, it felt very sort of like, this is the bad guy, we're the good guys, and this is what we're going to do to defeat them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Realm Reborn is quite vanilla in how it's built its characters and the world.
Yeah, but then that's sort of almost part of it because you're naive at that point.
Yeah,
and then as you play through, you learn more about the world. So it's quite cleverly done, really.
Yeah.
I don't know if they intended that.
Probably not intended. I think they went for a safe recipe for a Realm Reborn.
Yeah.
Shades of Grey didn't start appearing until Heavensward.
Yeah. And they even announced that with Heavensward, it's gonna get darker now. Heavensward is gonna be darker, both visually and thematically. It's gonna be darker.
I think that might be why some people, or why people in general, tend not to like Stormblood as much. Is that it feels like it goes back to that more black and white, dynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. That is the Gamescom interview with Oda-san and Hiroshi P. Now we're going to move on to the main story, which is the PAX West panel with Ishikawa and Suzuki, the main scenario writer and...
Art director is his title?
Art director? Yeah, art director?
He
should remember that. Yes. Right. So
he's the main guy in charge of art, at least.
Yeah. Right. So the panel started with, it technically started with an introduction by
Suzuki and Ishikawa.
No. Matt.
Oh, Matt. Yes.
And then they walk on stage. Suzuki introduces himself first as the. It is art lead, right? He is art director.
Yeah.
I want to say
something art, something.
He's the leader of the art team because he does he does everything, and then he has people who work on the UI elements and some visual effects.
So a pretty important guy on the dev team.
Yeah, he's an important guy.
Yeah.
He's made everything. He made all the zones and
Yeah.
stuff. He's,
He's made everything you look at.
Yeah.
Well, not personally, but he's in charge of making sure that you see everything that you look at.
Yeah. And of course, Ishikawa, who's the main scenario writer for Shadowbringers, and of course, something happened when that was announced. First it just showed they had like a slide showing what they've done, and when they got to Ishikawa, it showed like a Realm Reborn stuff, and I think Heavensward. I think it showed from all three previous expansions.
What she did so far, yeah.
Yeah, and then when they got to the next slide, it said what she's done in 5.0, and it basically just said that she'd done the whole 5.0 scenario. And that's when this happened.
What did I do for Shadowbringers? ミニシナリオ全編を通して担当しておりました。Main scenario for 5.0. She's overwhelmed. Overwhelmed. もうみんなすごいシナリオ大好き。Oh my goodness. Thank you. Oh my gosh. She's so overwhelmed that I don't know if we can continue doing the panel. Oh my gosh, don't cry. Thank you so much.
Okay, so that happened. Standing ovation.
So sweet.
Yeah. Well deserved.
It was 100% deserved.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what that would feel like to have something that you put so much effort into, just like rewarded with that kind of praise, and to feel like not just like to see people talk about it like online or in articles or stuff like that, but to like see the people in front of you, like appreciating what you've done.
Yeah.
Exactly. Maybe you should do more work at work then, Yogi.
Okay. Right. So, they basically in the panel they broke down a little bit how they made certain stuff, but they did say that it was so making areas especially is such a big topic they could only really focus on one specific area for this panel, and that was
the Tempest.
Oh, that should be off. Thank you, though.
Okay,
Zappa. Audio listeners hate it.
Enjoy that.
So it was interesting to see how they talked about how they wanted. We got to see some sketches, some early design concepts for Amarot, which were amazing. All of them were amazing.
Yeah. Conceptually entitled Atlantis.
Yes.
Yeah. Which was quite funny.
And originally they wanted Amarot to be like very far down, like very deep.
Yes. Yeah, like a drop.
Tempest. Yeah, like a big drop. But again, the fucking engine is too limited. So when apparently was it like 1,600 meters or whatever? If the drop was higher,
too deep,
like there was like a specific limit, like a number. I believe it was 1,600 meters or whatever. The physics would like break or whatever. It wouldn't recognize the ground.
The lower elements would not be visible.
Right. So they had to raise Amarot up, which is how it is today. It's actually not that far down.
No,
from the
it's
rest
visible
of the
from. Yeah, it's visible from the upper sections of the
Tempest.
Tempest.
The entrance.
Yeah,
when you get
after. Well, not. It's difficult to see when you first arrive because of their use of the everlasting light.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if they hadn't done that.
Yeah. Oh, the nav mesh would break. That's what it was.
Yeah, the nav mesh.
Yeah. So now they had this other problem, which was that Amarot was visible from the beginning of the dungeon. You could see it in the distance. So she said they were very persistent that they wanted to hide it. They wanted something to block it off, even though the people, whoever was behind the actual implementation of this map were like, oh, this probably doesn't matter. They were like, no, you don't understand.
Yeah.
They can't see this. So they added this fog effect on top.
Which does go away once you finish the game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which was very cleverly done, and I did not understand that was a city when I saw it the first time. I thought it was just... I can't even remember what I didn't even think about it.
It's just glowing sea thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they need some light down here, so maybe that's the light source or whatever.
When you first step in, finish traveling through that cave, and you first look down and you see Amarok.
Yeah.
It's some amazing and completely unexpected. You don't expect to see something like Amarok down in the ocean like that.
No.
Yeah.
They also placed the plants around so that it wouldn't be as obvious what was, because a lot of Tempest is quite barren, so they put out tactical plants around to help mask what was behind.
They also another point they made was the draw distance in Amarok itself is further than the draw distance in the upper floors of the Tempest, because the upper floors of the Tempest are more supposed to feel like a sea floor, whereas Amarok is supposed to feel like a city.
Yes. That's more or less what. So this panel is quite difficult to recap.
Yeah, because it was very conceptual.
Yes.
I will say, if you've not watched it, it's 100% worth watching, because it's fascinating to watch their process behind building the main scenario and building the zones.
Yeah.
But it's so hard to capture that in a report.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we just have to say how good it was.
Yeah. I think you can watch it on the... Can you still watch it on the 14
you
channel?
You can still watch it.
I have to assume it's definitely on the...
The 14 channel... Yeah, it's probably on the Pax West or Pax website. Because the 14 website, Twitch channel. The 14 Twitch channel tends to be very selective about what's what you can see.
I feel as if it would be there.
Yeah,
probably.
Maybe.
It's pretty big.
Pax, which is just twitch.tv/Pax.
Yeah,
was the one.
It may eventually get uploaded to the YouTube channel 3 months later, but
yes,
that's true.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We can. How can we forget? They also talked about the melty face mask.
That was amazing.
Probably the best part of. Well, a lot of it was. The whole panel was good, but they talked about. First of all, they were warning: if you don't like graphic shit, you might not want to watch this part of the panel. They basically showed how they did the transformation. From a human to a sin eater, the one scene you all know, the one with
Tesleen.
So basically, what they did is they made a mask, because again, the 14 engine is very limited, so they had to come up with. They wanted it to be as graphic as possible while still not breaking any the current age rating or whatever, laws and everything for other countries. So they basically just made a map. It looks like just the... Well, it looks like a lot of things. But what they would do is they would have this mask with white goo and stuff, and they would just push it gradually forward. And then as it moved forward, you got the illusion that things were coming out of her face.
Starting with her eyes, then her nose, her ears, her mouth underneath her hair.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very creative solution.
Yeah.
And it's apparently how they make characters cry in this game, when they're actually crying and it's not one single sparkly anime tear.
Yeah. So that was very interesting to see as well. Suzuki tried to show with a Namasu mask. A for effort, but it didn't really... I think we already understood the concept before he tried to do it with the mask, because it didn't really help.
I think that the slide was visual enough.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was I think that was it for the panel. Again, watch it if you haven't. It's probably on the 14 Twitch channel, or if not, it's on the PAX one for sure.
Yes.
We will now move on to the interviews that were conducted with Suzuki and Ishikawa. We'll start off with one from the O Network.
If you know what the O stands for, please let us know.
Yeah, send us a MogMail. No, don't send us a MogMail with the explanation of what the O Network is.
Comment on the video, more likely.
Yes. Right. Let's just jump into this. For people who are not familiar with your work, can you describe what it is you do? Oh, thank God, we need this. And how you got
that's why I included it.
with Final Fantasy XIV. So Suzuki says, we have 3 art staff members in the supervisory role, and among those 3, I handle the supervision of character design, cutscene design, as well as background design. That's a lot. That's, again, that's almost all of the visual stuff. The only thing I guess he doesn't do is like modeling, like for items and stuff. In terms of how I got involved with the 14 team, I have had a long history with Square Enix in general, even before the merger. I joined the company when it was still Square, and I worked on titles including Chrono Cross, Final Fantasy X, and Final Fantasy XII. In terms of Final Fantasy XIV, I've been a member of the team since the pre-production of the original 1.0, Final Fantasy XIV. So, yeah, it was about 13 years ago when I joined the project.
So he said this during the panel itself, but like, he's one of the few people that's been there since the start.
Yeah.
He's been there longer than Yoshi P and Bunny Order and a bunch of other people.
He's one of the few like devs that were transferred over to the Realm Reborn team. Not many did, but he did. Ishikawa.
I imagine that the people in charge didn't think it was his fault that the game failed.
Yeah. Ishikawa says
Backgrounds weren't good enough.
Actually the backgrounds in 1.0 weren't too bad.
They were good.
Yeah, they were good.
Yeah.
And the cutscene design was very good.
Prime.
So he did all the best bits for it.
Yeah. Character design too. Like,
yeah.
So yeah, they were the best parts of 1.0.
Working within the limitations of like the limited amount of gear they had, they made the characters all look distinct from one another.
Yeah, I do want to question why he gave so many characters that were wearing like clothes. Why they gave them like armored legs, like Sabatons. I don't understand.
That was very strange.
Yeah, it's a very 1.0 thing. Both Louis Soir had and Ida had it, I think.
Papalimo does?
Papalimo does. A lot of, because I guess they just had limited footgear in 1.0. Right. Ishikawa says, for myself, with Shadowbringers, I am working on the main scenario, the storylines in general, and while I am a scenario writer, I am also one of the game's designers. So I work with the different teams, like the design team to make requests for different assets, as well as with the sound team to request different background music, and determine when and where those elements would be utilized. I worked with another game developer as a game scenario writer previous to joining Square Enix, and joined the 14 team when A Realm Reborn was about to be kicked off. In terms of involvement with Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn and beyond is where I have been involved. So she didn't touch 1.0. The scenario writer for 1.0 is not working on A Realm Reborn.
No.
Right. In regards to the planning process, I know you worked on the Crystal Tower in 2.0. Was Shadowbringers planned that far back, almost 4 to 5 years ago? The thing with this is a very sad, disappointing answer, because remember when we theorized originally about how much the Crystal Tower was featured in A Realm Reborn? It's basically being shot down now. This is like the Squall is dead theory being shut off. When we were working on A Realm Reborn, we never knew if we were going to have an expansion, and even if we knew, we didn't know how many. With Grahatia being part of the Crystal Tower, we did want to tell this part of the story of what happened to him afterwards. We just didn't know when we were going to tell that story. Over the course of the last few years, there was talk about the new expansion and how we were going to have some sort of connection with it. I felt that it was a great time to bring up that story. So, there it is.
Yeah. I don't really see how they would unless it was they made it a side story, I don't see how they could have told it in the concept in regards to the Garlemald storyline.
Yeah.
No, it wouldn't make sense.
No. Yeah. It's just always... I've always been so, like... now, after Shadowbringers, I keep thinking about why they put Crystal Tower in the trailer. Because Crystal Tower wasn't even a launch feature. And yet it was in all the trailers. I guess it's just because Yoshi P kept bringing it up in interviews. And they were like, oh, for fuck's sakes, I guess we'll put it in. Can you tell us some of the challenges of writing this, a story that is based on 1.0, which is a completely different game now? To be honest, we definitely wondered about some of the original lore from 1.0. We thought about why some of these elements were incorporated into the lore, and there were some challenges in trying to interpret them for ourselves. But with that said, if the development team were having trouble figuring out some of these elements, we figured that the players may have been confused with some of the lore settings as well. With that as our foundation, we tried to go in there, interpret it the best we could, and find ways to make it make sense, make it connect, make sure it meshes, so we can deliver the story we wanted to tell while still paying respects to the original material. We sort of used that as our foundation and as our ideas and inspirations for the story we are telling.
Was it during the panel or was it during last week's podcast that we mentioned that some people in the development team didn't even understand how the Echo worked in 1.0?
The Echo, yeah, they brought up the Echo specifically as a problem. Because in 1.0, it wasn't very obvious. It was basically just a sound.
Oh, it was a stupid system in 1.0.
Yeah. But the thing is, it was supposed to be confusing back then because you weren't supposed to understand that you were watching an echo, that you were watching something that had happened. And the echo in 1.0 was extra confusing because you could interact with the past.
Oh, it doesn't make sense.
You couldn't change the past, but you could interact with it.
Well, what were you meant to think was happening?
Well, that's a whole other topic we can discuss.
I don't really understand how you interact with the past without changing it.
Yeah, that's the strange thing. Because you're watching an echo, so it has already happened. But you are talking to the soul.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
You can ask them questions like, why are you doing this?
Yeah, when you are first introduced to the echo in 1.0, Minfilia triggers an echo. While you're in the waking... Not the waking sands. Yes, the waking sands. She triggers an echo, and then you're watching... the guy that has brought you to the waking sands talk to Minfilia, and he's like, I'll go get him or whatever, and he turns around and walks, and then Minfilia turns to you and she's like, how can you be here already? And then the echo ends, and then she's like, did you see the echo?
What?
Maybe
that's more confusing.
I know.
Maybe their way of including the 1.0 echo in the modern game was in how Emmett Selk made Amarot.
See, that's not half bad of an idea. That makes sense with how the echo works, because, well, we never really got to see a lot of 1.0's echoes. But...
I'm not saying it's necessarily connected, but it might have been what influenced how they made Amarot and how it works.
Yeah.
Because, like, they can interact with you, but they don't necessarily understand that you're not supposed to be there, except for Hythodius, who could arguably be considered like the equivalent of Minfilia in this situation.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Well, anyways, even the new dev team that came in had, they thought stuff that had happened like 10 years ago had actually happened recently. So it was very confusing, which is strange because you would think that at least the main scenario team from 1.0 would debrief or just tell the new team what's going down so they could like ask them. I guess they just got booted. Like,
I mean, it's possible they might have told the scenario writers, but like people in the other department might not have known.
But why wouldn't... Well, oh yeah. But I feel like she specifically said... Or maybe... No, actually, it doesn't matter. I guess it might have been the other people of the dev team. But sometimes, though, it doesn't feel like they've been told everything, because she's sort of implying it here, that there were some things that were questioning. Like, yeah, I don't think the old main scenario team was like on speed dial. I don't think they could call them.
No.
And be like, when you wrote this, I think they were kind of
Square Enix may have lost their numbers.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't even make sense in the modern game, though. Like that scene where you're floating next to Sid's airship. That was never explained.
Wasn't that an echo?
It was.
Yeah, but you were floating.
You were floating, and he can see you. Like
he could see you in it, and he was like, "Oh, you."
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that
that part isn't
ever again.
really explained. I think
that's definitely a plot point that they probably wanted to expand on.
We've brought this up so many times before, and
it's one of the ones that annoys me.
Yeah, I know. It was. I'm trying to like figure out what it is, but I don't. It's not an echo. We do trigger an echo. We do get to see an echo of Sid as a child. Well, it's like not even an echo. It's like a.
I thought it was him telling you a story.
It's him telling it, so we just visualize.
I think when I watched that recently, I took it as like a metaphor and not real.
Ah.
Yeah, that might be it. That's the only thing that kind of makes sense.
It felt so deliberate, though.
Yeah.
It's like, make sure you notice that you're there.
But why do we have to look like a floating specter outside of his ship? Why aren't we just appearing on his ship as like...
Because I don't think I think they didn't want us realizing that Sid knew us then already. Or like knew the people that played 1.0.
Okay. I guess. Anyways, doesn't matter.
Anyway,
it was just a tiny part of the Realm Reborn story.
It's probably never going to be touched on again, so don't think too hard about it.
Maybe in the TV show. In terms of the players, can you tell us how the community's feedback has shaped the game, and has there been any sort of challenges that you have had to overcome? Ishikawa says, when we're creating the story, we do, of course, receive feedback, but we don't typically change what we write in the story based on the feedback we receive. This is only because by the time we get the player responses, we're already working on material that is already further in. We've never really seen a case where receiving feedback about a character has made us consider having them appear more or less frequently in the game. We wouldn't make a character go away because they weren't popular. It doesn't really affect us too much.
That's good. Xenos is staying.
I mean, Lisa isn't in Shadowbringers.
That's true.
She'll join us on the Guardian front lines, though, Gogi, don't worry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Wow. You saved a whole shard from destruction? I did.
I did that. I did that.
Wow, another accomplishment for Leeds.
Also, Horchefant kind of got... Horchefant is complicated, I think. We've talked about this before. He had to go.
Such an important moment.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
that's why he lives on with us.
There is like a story, a little bit of a story. It seems behind Horchefant. We've discussed this before on the podcast. We're not going to get back to that, but I don't know if that was their thing. That was a localization issue, I believe.
Yeah.
We noticed in one of the story dungeons, Amarot, the character Emmett Selk will tell the story throughout. Were you involved in writing that story, and could you tell us a bit more about it, the dungeon, and your inspiration? What makes a team great is that with the Amarot area, yes, the narration of Emmett Selk was written by myself, and when you walk through the dungeon, there are different names of the areas that come up. These, and when we're talking about the history of the ancient city, Oda-san actually worked on those parts. So it was kind of like a conversation between the two scenario writers. It was a collaborative effort in that area. In terms of delving more into this content, I'm sure people are very curious because of Emmett Selk, as well as we get to find out more about the Asians and the Ancients as well. If we go too far into detail here, we wouldn't have much to look forward to in the patch updates, so that's all we can say at this point.
Wow.
I mean,
cool.
She does essentially say we'll find out more about Emmett Selk, which I was a bit worried about might fall by the wayside, but it seems like with mentions of finding out more about Emmett Selk and La Habrea, they're not going to be left behind.
Right. Yeah,
That's true.
that's good. As of the current patch in Shadowbringers, is there any particular instance that was the most memorable? Something challenging or fun? Anything interesting? Suzuki says, the final dungeon. It was a challenge to figure out how we would visually show what we wanted to do. Which, I mean, it's quite a spectacular dungeon.
Yeah.
So I think they did that perfectly. Ishikawa says another dungeon would be the Don Meg dungeon, where there was a lot of discussion back and forth about how we would do it and how not to do it. Suzuki says, because amongst the development team members, we called it the Garden of Illusions. You've got these pixies creating fantasy worlds, so to speak. It was a challenge to figure out how we wanted to depict that sort of magical garden type of environment and how we represent these illusions the enemies are projecting onto the world. It was quite challenging, but it was also something really worthwhile. Unfortunately, Don Meg was shown off too much.
Yeah, I agree. So we went in knowing too much about it.
Yeah. And because of that, I don't really like Don Meg anymore. I was already tired of it by the time we got it.
I think it suffered
every
from
news outlet had to show it off.
Yeah.
I think it suffered from the fact that it's the only dungeon where the final boss is not Sin Eater or Light Warden.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it was the only one they could show without like making the conflict immediately apparent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's still a nice dungeon. It's just that
it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just,
and they showed literally everything. Like I think it was the media event where people got to play through more or less the whole dungeon. Yeah.
Pretty
So,
much, yeah.
there it was. On a side note, it kind of reminds me of the anti-tower in Heavensward. Maybe it's the frogs. I don't know. They both laugh at that question. Ishikawa says, oh yes, that was another challenging one too. Suzuki says, actually, you bring up a good point. The anti-tower was also a challenge in itself. Do we create it right side up first or flip it upside down?
I only included this because I wanted people to remember that Mela didn't realize that the anti-tower was upside down.
It was better that way because then it gave me a more of a enjoyment later on in its life cycle.
Yeah. I still can't believe that you missed one of the most vital design elements of that dungeon. That is such a good... I just can't believe it. That's good. Okay, so with regards to the compacting of Realm Reborn, how will that affect the expansion? Would it just be a Realm Reborn, or would it include all of the expansion?
All of the expansion.
All of the expansions. With making the story more compact, it will primarily affect the Realm Reborn story, but we do not have any intention of rewriting the story at all. What we're trying to do is shave off some of the excess. If there are areas that a player is not required to go, we should shave it off, so it's more streamlined. Please be assured that there won't be a case where a character is supposed to make an appearance be written out of the story. It will still make sense. It also applies to patches 2.1 to 2.5, thank God. And, it also applies to patches 2.1 to 2.5 with the end of A Realm Reborn. People are eager to get into Ishgard as quickly as possible, and there are several quests that require players to go elsewhere before entering the narrative of Heavensward. We're revisiting some of those quest lines to make it more streamlined. There we go.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you really want to have been... Like, I'm happy I've done the original version of it.
Yeah.
And now if I ever want to make an alt... I won't, but if I ever do, at least it's quicker. But
yeah,
get in there if you want to do it.
Lore is not lost, chat. That is what she's saying.
Lore isn't... Yeah.
She's
it's
shaving
just
off
the
the
side
excess.
quests.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what
The
I'm
ones
getting
where Go on.
from what I'm getting from this is like even for like the Titan quest line, you're still going to end up going to old places. You're going to still end up going to Forgotten Springs and stuff like that. Except instead of doing like 5 quests, it'll be like 1.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm glad they're doing that. Because it is. We've talked about this before. A Realm Reborn is very long, very long.
Yes.
Yeah, it's good, but there's loads of areas where it's filler quests. Probably because of the slower leveling at the time. They can just make the leveling faster.
Yeah. And now that we sort of have confirmation that they won't remove lore, they won't characters won't be written out. it's just like a matter of streamlining it.
That's a good point, chat. With the reduction of the Realm Reborn storyline, it's possible that would make a Realm Reborn classic more likely.
Yeah. Good God. Okay, so does everyone write their own dialogue for the Rising event? Ishikawa says, we try to gather input from the various staff members, but we have a lot of people on our development team. If we had everyone write their own letters, it would be a heck of a long letter. So we got the scenario team members to help Georgi, your
paraphrase.
Paraphrase.
Yeah,
no, sorry, no. It's because you're moving. Every
Oh,
time
sorry.
you do that, your name covers the text. So we got the scenario team members to help paraphrase to make sure we incorporated everyone's messages into these dialogues.
Go back to printing it out.
Okay.
That's
All they
interesting.
needed to do for the Rising was to make sure that the bottles just were in
Didn't
the order
repeat?
1 to 5, and then they started again 1 to 5. So if you wanted to do it loads, you could, but it was always in order.
Yeah.
But I saw them all in game.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm the best.
Okay. Right, let's move on. This next part, this next quest, no.
This next quest is from
it's the
Gamer
next
Escape.
quest.
This next last interview is from Gamer Escape. We picked up some of the good ones here as well. With regards to character design, we have the new wardrobes for the characters, and they're usually more original. But Thancred, for example, just uses the Gunbreaker armor. What was the reason for that? Ishikawa says, from a realistic perspective, with the Scions, oh my god, with the Scions, of course, they're part of the element that brings to life the story and sort of brings in some additional color to your adventures. Their wardrobe has been updated for the expansion, but we also introduced new characters like the Crystal Exarch, and of course Emmett Selk played a large part as well, and they were a completely original design. Realistically speaking, the development resources that we could allocate for the designs of these characters was limited. That being said, for Thancred, Oriange, and Y'shtola, because they drastically changed their jobs, we wanted to visually represent that they switched over their jobs, so we took inspiration from the artifact gear and sort of modified it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it's a bit like they've said, "Oh, let's make a really cool Gunbreaker artifact gear."
Yeah.
Why has Thancred got just that normal rubbish artifact? Why do you But you know, it's a cool armor. It looks cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. And
it fits his personality.
It has a different color, so there's that.
Yeah, and it even has lore reasons because of the different...
It says that they were modified job gear, AF gears, but like Y'shtola's is probably the most different from
Yeah,
hers is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm sure that'll be on the Mug Station soon.
It's because she's the poster girl for the game, so they had to like...
That's true.
Yeah. When starting Shadowbringers, early on the story has a branch. You can either go to Amarang or and visit Alice, or go to Kalusia and visit Alphino. Did that option to choose to provide any narrative challenges? Ishikawa says that we decided to have that option to go either way so that we can prevent bottlenecking. So we would have the players decide where they wanted to go and not gather in one spot. We didn't want to guide our players by saying... Huh?
I didn't even think about that, but
Yeah.
it's a good solution to it.
Yeah. We didn't want to guide our players by saying, well, typically I think players would go and join up with Alice or Alphino. We wanted the players to themselves to make the decision instead of holding their hand. We made sure that both options are viable and that it's not leaning towards one or the other.
Yeah.
That explains why every expansion starts with 2 areas that you can go to.
Yeah. It is a nice way of doing that. When traveling to the first, one thing I enjoyed was seeing a lot of the similarities to zones we have on the source. What was it like creating the first and deciding where to add these pieces of familiarity? Suzuki says, if everything was just a 1-to-1 mirror between the source and the first, it would have been easy. From a design and lore perspective, because these worlds were split into shards a long time ago, we do want to, of course, pay tribute to the original one, but with any of the landscapes, from the plains to the forest to the beaches, we wanted to introduce different elements. It wasn't about where do we bring in familiar elements, but the base... What? It wasn't about where do we bring in familiar elements, but the base is the original. And then where do we incorporate the different elements? That's how the design team looked at it. Ishikawa says, from a lore perspective as well, the base terrain would be the same between the source and the first, but they are different history. Plus, on the first, we have never really had a calamity, so some of the areas affected on the source by the calamity may not apply to the areas on the first, and that's the thinking that the scenario team had. So our concept was also looking at the history of the source throughout Realm Reborn and Heavensward, and then we thought about how it would differ if the first had taken a different path in history.
You know what?
Bless
The
you.
first is bless you. The first isn't that impressive because they've never had calamities, so there's no reason why they don't have an Allegan Empire.
That's a fair point. The Ronkans, yeah. Why did they die?
The Ronkans fell without even a calamity.
Yeah,
Oh,
what happened
yeah.
to them?
That's true.
They just
I
sucked.
guess it was the light. I don't know. Well, no.
No, the Ronkans fell before the light.
That's true.
I'm
They
pretty
did.
sure.
Oh yeah, they did. They
Yeah,
got,
that's
like
fair
they
point.
fell like thousands of years ago, didn't they?
Yeah,
Like
for
a-
no good reason. Must have been like a big. We won't get to explore the first history as much as I want to. That's the trouble.
The Ronkans
Yeah.
just sucked.
I mean, that's what I said.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's the quote to take from this episode.
Just makes me want all the shards just to see what's different on those versions of it as well.
Yeah. Give me a shard where the Allegans prospered.
Oh yeah, where there's like no greenery left. It's all just buildings everywhere,
Well,
big Allegan structures.
the Allegans wouldn't really be able to prosper because they wouldn't even exist. The Allegans was sort of like a reaction to a calamity, which is
Yeah.
why they stopped believing in gods and they believed in oneself, and then that's
But
when they
then-
got the great minds, and that
Why would the Ronkans exist then?
I don't know. The Ronkans are an anomaly. I don't understand.
Yeah.
There's something.
So I
I
wanna
think
know-
they just wanted to have an Allegan-esque empire there.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so too. Yeah.
I just want to I want to know what the other anomalies are.
Yeah. I don't know. It's also interesting because
Vieira.
they're basically they're basically telling us that the first is like a pure representation of what the world used to look like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Hydaelyn is like a broken mess. Like it's
Oh,
gone
yeah.
through. It's got lots of scarring, while the first has not. Well, I mean, except for the giant fucking ball of light that's like consuming.
Well, that's
the
the
planet.
thing. If we went to any of the other shards that are still available to go to, which aren't completely destroyed by light or darkness,
Yeah.
it would just be another massive normal world, which
Yeah.
would be
Yeah.
pretty cool to see.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, it would have its own Othard, it would have an Ilsabard,
Yeah,
it'd have everything.
Yeah.
It would be a first that hasn't been cut in half,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
or like more than half.
yeah. Would be very strange. Well,
That'd be
that's
so cool.
6.0, everyone.
No, it's not.
That'd be like 9.0.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I thought it was interesting seeing some things. For example, in the Raktika Greatwood, you have the group Y'shtola is with, and it kind of reminds me of Gelmora from the Source. Was that intentional? It bothers me that I didn't make that connection.
Bothers me as well.
Because the only thing I remembered or noticed in that area was the 1.0 Shroud music. I'm like, wow, they're bringing that back. Ishikawa said, you have a really keen eye. When the development team was creating some of the dungeon areas for Shadowbringers, the ruins you traveled through in that area, amongst the developers, we kept calling it the Gelmora dungeon. So yes, good observation there. There you go.
I
That's
didn't
really
because
cool.
I always thought the Ronkans were more similar to Gilmora than Alec.
Well, we don't. Well, the problem is we don't really see anything of Gelmora.
Yeah.
We see. We've never seen a mechanical device created by the Gelmorans, except for what I found in Secrets of a Realm. But there's no like. We have mossy stone. That's
Yeah.
Gelmora. Mossy stone, mossy cobblestone.
Palace of the Dead and that little bit sticking out in North Shroud.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, there's the dungeon.
I was just-
Totorak, Tamtara.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always just felt Katana Revel had more of an aesthetic similar to
To me, it was always a
Gelmora.
fusion. It's got that glowy
Yeah.
stone that you like
Yeah.
the glowy parts, like the elegance, and they're obviously
Yeah.
more technologically advanced than the Gelmorans were. The little we know of Gelmora is that they weren't very into tech. Like they were more preoccupied with staying underground and trying to find ways to grow stuff underground. That was their biggest concern. They didn't care about machinery in that sense.
Ronka more reminds me of early Elegant Empire.
Yes.
Possibly so.
That might
It
be.
may have been like that early on. It's more like Labyrinth than
Azizlar.
Yeah. Right. I also thought it was interesting. Ilmeg, which is the first version of Kurthus, where we had the Dragon Song War, but with Ilmeg, Man isn't there anymore, and everyone is talking about how much they miss Man and how great Man was. Ishikawa says, it's interesting you say that, because yes, with Heavensward, it was depicting a narrative about how Man and Dragon were at odds with each other, but in the end they came to terms with each other. With the first, you go to Ilmeg, which has the feeling of Kurthus. Their resolution was that Man was completely gone. There was some intent that the scenario team did have in taking the story in that direction. There you go.
Poor little Numo.
Yeah.
Where did the Pixies live beforehand? Because they moved in. And the Fwath are the ones that drowned the city.
Didn't they... Didn't the Pixies talk about it? Like they were somewhere where the light was, and they were just searching around for a home, and Man had already abandoned it, so they came here.
Yeah.
We'll never find out, but I would have liked to have known where they came from.
We'll never know.
Actually,
Probably
Beast Tribe Quest might elaborate on that.
Yes, that's true.
That's true.
Yeah. Amarot had references to some literary pieces of works such as Thomas More's Utopia or William Shakespeare's The Tempest. I'm curious if there are other works you looked at or drew inspiration from. Ishikawa says, so with the naming, of course, the scenario team and lore team weren't together, and then the lore team would establish the names for the different areas. In the discussion between myself and the lore team, we thought, how do we describe this area of Amarot and the capital, and what it's supposed to be representing? We thought about this sort of utopia-type place, where no one has to labor, but everyone is still happy. Of course, Yulmore had its own vision of what their utopia is, but Amarot would be different from that philosophy. When we were thinking about how Amarot is more about a complete society, what kind of wording do we use to describe that? That's when we looked at Thomas More's Utopia and decided Amarot would be an appropriate name. There you go.
Interesting.
Yeah. One of the bigger elements of Shadowbringers is the Crystal Exarch. When did you decide that you would bring back Graha Tia? Ishikawa says, we definitely had the idea by the time we got to writing the narrative for Shadowbringers. Of course, when we first introduced the Crystal Tower series and the conclusion it had, the team did have this feeling of, oh, we would love to have him come back in some way sometime, and we still hadn't pinpointed when we wanted to introduce him back. Those two ideas existed, and when Yoshida brought up the idea of Shadowbringers, when we were trying to decide on the story and the central gimmick of where we want to take the narrative, I felt it would have it would click to have him come back, and that it was the appropriate time.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It was always weird how Graha's story ended in the Crystal Tower.
Yeah.
It was like, it was kind of left open, but it's like probably going to take like 1,000 years before you can open this door. And I'm like, there's no way this game is gonna last that long that we can allow 1,000 years to pass.
It did feel at the time like it's the end, but also like he feels more important than certain other side story characters.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. The design of the Crystal Exarch is interesting, like how he's got that crystallized hand. How was the process of designing him? Ishikawa says, with designing the Crystal Exarch, I wanted to make sure we laid out how we got to where he is in the story. So when I made the request, I explained that he would have become one with the Crystal Tower, and so parts of his body were starting to crystallize. When we were trying to decide which part of his body were starting to crystallize, we remembered that he had tattoos on his neck and part of his hands. We wanted to make sure we hid those parts. Suzuki adds, with that background established, the concept art design is requested and the rough draft is created. And that concept then goes to my team and the 3D team when we build the character model. By the time the order came into the 3D modeling team, the image was already fairly established, so there wasn't much trouble bringing that to life. That said, there was a request from Ishikawa-san that we wanted to hide his face, and that was a challenge. So the face was sort of darkened on purpose. Typically, with a 3D model, we just want to use lighting to show highlights and shadows, but with the Exarch, we purposefully darkened his face so he was unrecognizable.
Well, it didn't work.
Didn't work. Didn't fool me.
I mean, it made it so you couldn't see, even if you data mined the model.
The texture is literally just black.
That's true. But on the concept
Yeah.
art, we got through that.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's interesting you mentioned him becoming one with the Crystal Tower. My first thought when we see the Exarch was of Nero in the World of Darkness, the crust,
Yeah.
where Nero looks crystallized. Ishikawa says, the reason why Nero started to crystallize versus the Exarch were technically different, but it was an element that we wanted to bring to players' attention to notice that commonality between them being affected by the Crystal Tower and feeling that nostalgia of, oh yeah, I remember that happening before.
Okay.
The crust.
So they
Crossed
never
my
really.
mind.
What?
What?
It never really crossed my mind at the time. Like, oh yeah, he looks so much like Nero. Do you remember that? That was great.
We did say that.
We did.
Well, a little
did
bit.
talk about
but-
that.
It was part of our initial theory. We talked about,
Yeah, but-
Nero got all crusty, and
Yeah.
the Crystal Exarch is crusty.
But they're for very different
His
reasons.
There are different.
because Nero's was because of the darkness world.
Yeah,
Whereas
yeah,
his
yeah.
is Just the tower itself.
Yeah, so it was more just like a thematic throwback than like a
Yeah.
meaningful one.
Yeah. Okay, with Shadowbringers in a lot of the cutscenes, the expressions of the characters feel like they've been improved. How much work went into that? Ishikawa says. In terms of the player movements, and this will be talked about in the panel, but we did increase the motions that we added to characters during the cutscenes to about 1.3 times the movement compared to Stormblood. In terms of what we were specifically particular about in creating these cutscenes, that will also be in the panel, but there was something we couldn't fit into the panel, so we'll share it with you here. With the flood of the light, you constantly have light above you, so it's difficult to see time progression because the shadows won't typically move based on the movement of the sun. It was hard to feel the passage of time. We actually used that to our advantage. When we made these cutscenes, we were able to adjust it so that the lighting hit the characters perfectly in that situation, and we froze time, so to speak, to illuminate them properly. What?
I don't know, it's just very. That's very clever.
Oh,
that, like,
right.
the conditions of the world made making the game actually easier.
Yeah. With Final Fantasy Suzuki, with Final Fantasy XIV, everything moves in real time, which includes the weather and the time. That's one of the selling points of 14 is that we're telling the story in real time. But from an art team perspective, really, is that one of the selling points? That they're telling
The
the story
biggest
in
one.
real
It's on the
time?
back of the box.
Yeah. 24-hour time schedule takes place an hour and 5 minutes.
But from an art team perspective, it does pose a challenge to create this set image. So it does bring a challenge. So it does bring a challenge to if we were to raise the quality or improve upon ourselves in a visual representation. What?
I do prefer it when dungeons have reflect the time of the day within them rather
yeah.
than
Yeah,
having
yeah.
they're always being the same time of day. So
agree.
I can kind of understand what he means in it being a selling.
Yeah. For example, because the story is told in real time, again, there may be certain scenes that would look visually stunning if it were nighttime and the light was shining at a particular angle, but realistically speaking, we wouldn't have that specific moment if the player runs into that part of the narrative during the daytime when it's sunny out. It would be washed out and kind of ruin the picture. With the narrative of Shadowbringers, where the lighting is pretty much set, we would create the cutscenes and then go back, because we don't have to worry about the brightness of the sky. We can just adjust the lighting to present the visual elements better. We were able to go back and look at the different cutscenes we created and tweak it so it had a nice visual presentation.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But like,
But Ishikawa says at the end, but now that the Warriors of Darkness have brought back nighttime, we've lost the ability to do that.
I suppose it is cool that it changes time, but sometimes they obviously break that trend, like for the astrologian quest in the early Heavensward ones, where you have to look up and look at the constellations. I really wish that was time based. So look up there, it's showing a bright sky. That was cloud. Oh yeah, great.
Yeah. Yoshida-san has written in his Famitsu columns about how the graphics pipeline is older and how the team is using tricks to make it look better. I was curious if you could talk about what you do to maybe make things look less dated. Suzuki says, it is true, there is some manual effort to make it look good. Again, shitting on the graphics engine. This might be a very granular example, but if a character has a hood that they can put on and take off, these days with modern technology, it's not very difficult to have the motions do that. But doing that in real time is actually quite challenging, especially in 14. The graphics team and also the cutscene and presentation team would have the character model with the hood on and then a separate one with it off, and we would manually have to switch it over so it looks natural and seamless. Another example is the Crystal Exarch with having that darkened face. Although it's low tech, it's something we utilize so it would sort of blend in and make sense in that environment. So there are a lot of manual things that we tweak to bring in that presentation. Ishikawa adds, a lot of the developers have been around for a long time, so it's a very traditional way of looking at it, seeing how we can overcome an obstacle with the means that we have. Suzuki says, a lot of the times the developers will come up with ideas to have that visual presentation and show it to people like me, rather than do top-down instructions saying, I want it this way. Yeah, so, again, not news. The graphics engine is old. It's difficult to do stuff now.
I guess they're getting more familiar with it. It comes back to that idea that sort of like, you sometimes with limitations there can be greater creativity.
Yeah, that's true.
And obviously we see that in Shadowbringers. I've never seen cutscenes that alive in this game before. So they're definitely,
makes you improve as a programmer or a developer anyway.
Yeah. Okay, last question. What was the inspiration behind the Great Serpent of Ronka quests?
The best question.
Yay.
Ishikawa says that was actually a pet project of one of the scenario writers. Of course, we have the scenario and lore teams, but one of our new members that joined us had that idea, and she kept pitching it multiple times. So she worked on several drafts after being rejected several times, and so we feel we're not worthy to speak on her behalf about it, but it's her pet project for sure. Gamerscape adds, it's been quite popular, Ishikawa says. We'll make sure to let her know.
I think she knows.
She knows.
It's been good. Thank you for that little question. It was funny.
Yeah. There it is.
Thank you, Gamerscape.
Thank you to Gamerscape.
Network and Memorp.
And MemorPG.com. We promised MogMail, so MogMail we will get.
Useless.
We will just read MogMail, and you have to deal with it.
I'm sure they will be very upset about this.
Yeah, they will be very upset. Yeah. Okay, let's look at some MogMail. Here we go! This one... Oh. What was it? Lithiathan Togberga.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that's right.
Why do you have difficult... Are you doing this on purpose? From Zodiark. Hi, speakers. I've been following your channel since I've discovered the fascinating 1.0 videos, and I have 2 questions for you. In the last episode, which is no longer the last episode, number 157, you talked about Elidibus and the moon, but are you aware of the presence of a Zodiark statue on it? I noticed a strange structure by chance during the last appearance of Elidibus at the end of Shadowbringers, and that's where I discovered that a statue of Zodiark was already visible at the first appearance of the White Asian at the same place. We can also find a pretty impressive image on the internet where we can see the statue and the symbol of the Esper Zodiark in 12. Why is there a statue why is this statue here and half buried? What happened on this moon? Some old Asian's headquarter? Second question. What does the real name of Emmet Selk tell us? Hades is not an important figure of 14 or the Final Fantasy series in general. I have a little trouble understanding the impact of such a revelation. What is your opinion on it? Thank you for your always exciting videos. Regards. Whew.
Thank you, Mr. or Mrs. Toeberger.
Thank you.
I remember that. Wasn't that data mined, the thing on the moon, the statue on the moon originally?
Yes, there was a data mine of that as well, yeah.
So I remember that.
Yeah.
I wasn't a big fan of that.
What, finding out about it?
Yeah, I feel like that was a big, like something they really wanted hidden for a while, but
Yeah.
whatever.
It was part of a cutscene, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think apparently you can see it in the background and stuff, so that's okay.
Yeah.
But I don't remember it so much.
It wasn't
anymore.
that visible in the cutscene.
No.
But in the data mine picture, it's very clearly the symbol and the statue of Zodiark. So...
No idea what it means, though. Maybe when the sundering happened and Hyland, or the source was split into 14, maybe there's like a secret thing Hyland did that...
Well,
I don't know.
this is the age-old discussion we've had. And I think maybe this data mine was why we started talking about it more seriously, was that Zodiark was banished. He became a lunar body.
Yeah.
So Zodiark equals the moon. So every time there's a rejoining, a piece of that moon
crashes with the Earth, like metaphorically.
Yeah.
Or theoretically.
Yeah, because each moon is a piece of Zodiark. And that's why they need to rejoin the worlds, so that when all the worlds and all the moons have crashed together, Zodiark can wake up.
As someone has pointed out to us in the spoiler channel of our Discord, there is no moon in Amarant.
There is no moon in Amarant.
No, there isn't. But it could be on the other side of the planet.
It could.
That's true.
It could. That's true.
So it's non-conclusive, but interesting.
It is interesting. And Norrant does have a moon.
It does.
Yes.
Which poses...
But the 13th doesn't, does it?
The 13th is broken and destroyed. We can't really... We're talking about like
still
what we can see of it in the World of Darkness.
It's technically an active shard, though, isn't it? It's not been absorbed.
It is technically an active shard, but it can't be absorbed in its current state.
No.
So it... Does that not just...
Are you basing this on the World of Darkness dungeon?
Yeah. Because that's when we're in the 13th.
I don't know if you should take that as quite as canon. World of Darkness was released in a Realm Reborn.
I suppose.
I don't know if they had thought that far. Well, we know they have.
That's true.
So I don't know if that...
That's the only thing we have to go on, though.
The whole 13th shard being absorbed by the Void was not even... The Void was just the Void back then. It wasn't even described as a shard.
That's true. Actually, yeah.
So it might be some.
Might be an issue.
Yeah.
An error.
They might clear that up eventually.
Patched in.
Yeah. No, it is very interesting, but I still think it's because the moon is just heavily associated with Zodiark. So whether it is actually true that pieces of Zodiark exist on the moon or not is true. I don't. That doesn't matter because. To the Asians, it makes sense for them to have a base there because that's like Zodiark's planet. They don't want to be on Hyland.
It also makes sense for the Asians to be there, even if Zodiark's not there, because we can't go there.
Right. There's that too. Yeah.
Maybe like wherever the people, like the Asians. What are they called again? The Concordant or something.
What?
The 14 people who summoned Zodiark.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Or whatever they're called. Maybe their headquarters was the section of a landmass that Hydaelyn ejected as Zodiark, and that's now why there's a statue on the moon.
The convocation.
The convocation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that could be and that might be why they're so interested in standing on it all the time.
Yeah.
That's...
Maybe.
Yeah. The second question, I feel like we sort of talked about last time, but the Hades thing.
Yeah, hopefully you got your answers that time.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I think the main reason is they wanted to reference one of the super summons boss, like
Yeah.
every bosses,
Yeah.
every final bosses.
Okay, thank you, Mela. Why don't you repeat that
Toeburger.
name? Yeah.
Mr. or Mrs. Toeburger.
Next one is from another. Okay, I'm gonna try this one. Here we go. This one's from Sasatar Kimemis.
No, there's this pronunciation guide.
It's pronounced
Yeah,
like
but I think-
chemist. I'm not supposed to say chemist, am I? I
No,
thought.
but I think you're supposed to say. I think you're supposed to say chemist.
Oh
Really?
no,
Or
I
Chemis.
I think it's Doesn't matter. It's on screen. Hi, speakers. Long-time podcast listener and try to join streams when you cover live letters and such. I just finished running Praetorium as part of the MSQ roulette, and while normally zoning out like I do during the cutscene, one particular piece of dialogue caught my attention. When La Habrea activates the heart of Sabik and casts Ultima, he declares, "Witness the power of my god," or along those lines. Now knowing what we know about the origins of the Asians, this shows us that the heart of Sabik is a relic from the pre-sundering. What are your thoughts from pre-sundering? What are your thoughts on this, and if it may come into play? Is Sabik a potential character we may see in the future, or even Elidibus' true name? I'd love to hear your thoughts and keep up the great work. This has been a mystery for a very long time, ever since that.
I would say chemist anyway.
Okay. I mean, it was brought up in that in the Gamescom panel with Oda and Yoshi.
true.
Yes, Artis Sabik. They basically confirmed that we will know more about it soon.
Yeah. When I
so-
first read this manga, I was sort of thinking, what the hell are they on about? Because it's been so long since
Yeah,
Praetorium.
yeah.
Yeah.
The heart of
I
Sabik
agree.
is... Yeah, go on.
I think that I agree with them that it's probably a relic from the pre-sundering era. It makes me wonder if, because I believe Tupsi Mardi is supposed to have that horn thing on the end of it.
Yeah.
That is also a relic from that is similar in power. So
Yeah.
I assume it's also pre-sundering, but it may be something that's related to Heidelin rather than Zodiac.
Mm.
Maybe.
Yes.
There was also... Wasn't there something with Bahamut and Sabik?
Was
If
there?
you search the heart of Sabik, there's lots of discussion around Bahamut.
That might be early talks.
It may be
This is like
scary.
early Realm Reborn, where
Yeah.
Bahamut was a very hot topic, and the heart of Sub. They tried to like connect Bahamut and Heart of Sabik. I remember those discussions, but they never went anywhere because it was never mentioned again. So
That's true.
All the theories kind of died. Yeah.
Perhaps what makes the Heart of Sabik and Tupsi Mardi so powerful is because they sort of have the power of creation in the same way that the ancients did.
Yeah. It's also so Ultima weapon is an Allegan machine, isn't it?
Yes.
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 Or
is it like Omega?
is
No, Ultima was definitely built by the
No,
Allegans.
it's an Allegan war
It is an
machine.
Allegan war machine. Whether or not they like got the core,
Is Ultima Weapon an Allegan war machine, or is Proto Ultima an Allegan war machine, and then the Ultima Weapon was a recreation by the Gallian Empire?
no, the way I think it went is like they found the Omega weapon, which sparked the whole like technological thing with the whatever all we know from Allegan weaponry today. And I think the Proto Ultima was a prototype, and then the Ultimate weapon was the completed deal. That was it, and that was
found
fully
by Gaius.
yeah. But the heart,
Probably with their
the
help, though.
core of Ultima was the heart of Sabik, and that is the big question mark. Like, where is it from? Like, how and how?
Yes.
Yeah. So one would think that maybe the Asians gave it to the Allegans somehow. That was the theory back then, because let's see if I can remember old lore. Omega defeated Bahamut?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I want to say yes.
Or was it Ultima? Oh god, I can't remember. I think it's either Omega or Ultima.
I think Omega is more likely.
I want to say Omega as well.
Yeah. Okay. Ultima was... What was Ultima used for again? Was that just part of the campaign to take over Mericidia?
I think it was there.
anti-primal.
Yeah, I think it was to subjugate Mericidia.
Yeah, okay, right. That's how it went. Yeah. We although there are theories that what the Heart of Sabik is, we have no actual lore explanation about what it is. So we're grasping at straws.
Well, it casts Ultima is all we know.
It does cast Ultima. It does enable Ultima to be cast.
To cast Ultima.
Yeah. Yeah. It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
It's all a bit convoluted, but
Yeah.
yeah. Ultima's
Ultima is made possible by its generous Heart of Sabik.
Yeah.
Like Cat Comet.
Which is very strong.
Sorry, I was doing the whole... No,
Wow.
Did you not get the joke? I was doing the Patreon read. Okay.
Yeah, I noticed.
Right. Move on. One last. We can do one more. It's not like we have anything for the post show anyways. Right. Moving on. Next one is from... I love that I have to look over the screen. Next one's from... Majoga. From Balmum.
Oh.
It's so long. Okay, during... I didn't put a screen. Okay. During our tour of Amarot, we learned that creation magic can be quite sensitive. From a grown being too small or a child's playful killer slime to the accidental creation, what we can assume to be the first griffin from seeing a bird fly by while attempting to make a lion, the smallest distraction can change the core design a lot. That being said, I think this can explain why our first attempts at recreating primals ended up as they did. We know that what they looked like, but our memories of the encounter altered their appearances drastically. I think we can assume what's to come with future Eden primals. Ifrit, we're not going to think of this horned devil, but things that stick out in my mind is the black eclipsed sun and those nails. Nails, or spikes, can lead to what I think will be Nomura's signature designs of a gothic-style Ifrit. That'd be very cool. Garuda, apart from all the vortexes, we're going to remember her sisters and the pillars. Ramu...
Oh, make her three-headed.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Ramu, all we'll be thinking about is that damn beard. We're just fighting a giant beard. And for Shiva, I think will be most complicated, as it will also be the most emotional. Not only are we going to think of the Ice Maiden, we're going to think of Saint Shiva. We're going to think of our Vor, Rasvelgar, even that snowman just outside the fighting arena. But most of all, we'll remember Ysael, our journeys together, and in the end, her riding on Rasvelgar's back before sacrificing herself. I wouldn't doubt it if the Shiva fight had Ysael's face on her and a dragon involved. What are your thoughts on how memories of our encounters can drastically alter the core appearances of the original design? Thank you. Thank you, Majo.
That would be fantastic if they managed to... The Shiva fight was not flashy at all. It was just Ysael.
Yeah.
But they found a way of making you feel really bad for doing it.
Yeah.
I think it's possible they could use the Shiva fight in general to bring back memories of Heavenswood as a whole.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't think with Garuda we're going to be thinking about her sisters, though.
They're a really big part of her fight, though. Especially in the higher levels, which I'm assuming what they're
in the
doing.
higher levels, yeah.
This is like a raid, which is going to become savage.
Yeah, true.
Would be very strange for them to go for like the base story fight. They didn't like do that with the Leviathan fight, nor did they do that with.
Oh, they did do it with Leviathan.
Couldn't fall off the platform in Leviathan. Normal.
No, that's not in normal. Shiva's one's 100% going to just be full of horrible knockbacks and having to stand in the right place behind and in front of pillars.
You mean Garuda?
Garuda. Gonna be awful.
Yeah.
I like the idea of the Ifrit, though.
Yeah.
I think the Shiva one has the most potential to be like emotionally tumultuous for the Warrior of Light.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I feel like Ifrit has the least chance of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh yeah, ice floors. like icy floors that you slide off the arena. Love it.
I think Ramu's another interesting one. We could end up conflating Ramu and Rauga in our mind.
Oh,
That's true.
That's true.
That one has potentials.
Yeah.
Or even just thinking about sylphs in general
Yeah.
as well.
Oh, we're gonna make
Fight cabbage.
Ramu a giant cabbage person.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I mean, if we turn Titan into a vehicle, so we can do anything at this point.
That's
He's
true.
the world's your oyster.
Yeah.
Oh no! Now we've said oyster. That's the next one.
What?
Well, that's how easy it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Okay. I'm looking forward to what the next ones are going to be. Unfortunately, we have to wait for quite a while before we see them.
Which two do you think are next?
Do you not think? So you think it's going to be 2 just 8 fights and then 2 primals?
Okay, so I didn't bring this up earlier, but there was someone did a summary of, not a summary, but like some quick pieces of information from some Japanese interviews with Yoshi P on the subreddit. This is from Carrie Rofflelight. And one of the things they said specifically was that Gaia is going to go on a rampage in the 2nd tier.
Okay.
So that at least tells me there's going to be a fight that's not one of the primals.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they'll do it in 3 sets of 2
Ice
elements and normal fights. Okay. In that case, then, what have we done so far? Earth and water. So we'll probably do wind and fire, I would say.
Yeah.
Yes.
That makes sense. So Garuda and Ifrit then.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then we'll end with the more interesting ones of ice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like Omega Scape, where the interesting things are at the end.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm looking forward to what Nomura will do.
I'm more interested in the 8 ones.
Ifrit, though.
I'm interested in the 8 ones as well.
Yeah.
I think both the sides are very interesting.
Yeah. I like that they're split it that way.
Yeah.
I think the primals have very interesting potential for introspection into the Warrior of Light.
Yeah.
And then the other one is interesting. Yeah, and how dumb we are. And then the other half is interesting for the implications of what it means for the first.
Yeah.
And I guess also the Void.
Yeah. The Void is like randomly pulled into this as well.
Yeah, what's this woman going to do that we've saved?
So
she needs to have
so this person, which is more or less, I mean, it is Gaia.
The Oracle of Darkness.
She was introduced with Void Scent.
Yes.
So is she someone from the Void?
Is she a water?
Well, allegedly, didn't they say she?
Well, they didn't
the Oracle
say it
of Darkness.
Outright. Yeah, they did say Oracle of Darkness, which sort of
so
makes
that
sense.
essentially implies that she's Zodiac's speaker. In the same way that Minfilia is.
Yeah. If it is the Oracle of Darkness, then yes.
It has. Yeah, which is pretty big.
Yeah, which is the voice of Zodiac. Weird.
Could they just be using Oracle of Darkness as like as an equivalent to Oracle of Light in the sense that they play similar roles into a light-filled and a darkness-filled world?
It's probably not as deep as being the speaker of Zodiac.
Yeah, because Zodiac, as far as we know, is asleep, so he isn't talking to anyone.
And Zodiac the Asians can't use the 13th for Zodiac,
right.
So I don't see how she could be.
There's that.
If she is from the 13th, how she could be a representative of Zodiac.
But the fact that she might be from the Void is very intriguing because, well, we already have the little boy. Yeah, but he's not. I want more. I want more lore.
Yeah, I do. I don't like that Unul Kalhai is just forever stuck in the Minfilia's office.
So yeah, that's interesting. Also, remember from what we learned last week, where with Eden being like they wanted Eden. Oh, that was on the panel, wasn't it? We didn't mention that.
Yeah.
On the panel.
I didn't bring up the chat. I'm not bringing up these people because these two don't know who you're talking about.
Oh yeah, we haven't done that yet. During the panel they mentioned that originally Eden was supposed to be part of the main scenario, and
Eden was supposed to be the main boss.
They were supposed to be the Vothri wasn't. I don't.
Yeah, there was no Vorthri.
There was no Vorthri.
He was
There's Eden.
put in later on. Yeah,
Yeah.
Eden was the summoner and controller of the Sin Eaters.
It was the first Sin Eater.
Yeah, but she still is the
She's
first
still.
Sin Eater. I think.
They theorize that she is,
Yeah.
and or it is,
I
and I'm assuming that it is.
I personally don't think it's a Sin Eater. That's my current theory. I think
Really?
I think Eden can create Sin Eaters, but it is not a Sin Eater itself.
So you think they changed the concept entirely, that it's not a Sin Eater at all, but it can create them?
Yes. Yes.
So you think it's more of just a machine?
Yes.
Because Oriange's original theory, from what he said, was that it crashed on, or he implies that it crashed onto the. No, it didn't crash. It was killed by Minfilia, or put to sleep by Minfilia.
Yeah, she puts it to sleep.
Oh,
that's what halted the flood.
Because Ultima is like not Ultima. Eden is like a biological machine.
It feels
Yeah,
like
such an
another.
over.
It feels like another intergalactic creature
Like
in the
Omega.
similar to Omega and Midgard
Yeah.
Stormrunner. So like one theory I've had is that like it's used up so much ether on its journey that like it went into some like emergency protocol when it arrived on the first, that it started like sucking up like the elemental ethers to fuel itself again or something like that.
That's an interesting way of looking at it.
Yeah.
I mean, it sort of gives credence to your theory anyway, that it showcases itself in space.
Yes.
In the cutscene in the fight.
Yeah,
so
yeah. Oh yeah, it's definitely. I mean, it's definitely not of this world. I think that's clear. This wasn't created on.
Oh no, for sure.
The first. No.
It is something.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see how.
Maybe it is.
But if we go with the original idea, though, how strange is that? Like, if it didn't come from space originally, what a strange thing to materialize. Like just a UFO-looking thing.
I wonder how far that got before they they started changing the narrative.
Yeah.
Because I just don't see how Eden would exist otherwise.
It could have been attracted by the light. Like once the balance got like turned around, Eden like detected some sort of surge of
That's possible.
Material that whatever light is, ether. It is ether, I guess, but
yeah. I mean, we're using its own abilities to recreate the elements and bring it order back into the area. So maybe it's actually come here to save the planet, and Minfilia tried to kill it.
Yeah, could. That's very sinister.
I don't know if I believe. I don't believe if it was trying to. I could see it sort of like saving it in its own mind, but I don't know. I wouldn't go so far as to say it was actually saving the planet.
That would have been a twist.
It might be simple. Yeah, what if Minfilia actually had to kill it to make sure the light kept going? So weird.
Well, she did stop the flood, so it's kind of weird.
Yeah. Hydaelyn needed us to come here, and so she made Minfilia destroy the creature that was otherwise stopping us needing to come here.
Yes.
To force us to come here, and therefore Zodiac won't get some. Hydaelyn's evil.
Hydaelyn's evil.
I still don't.
We are Oshon.
I can't. I especially don't agree with that. But I can't sign on to the idea that Hydaelyn is evil.
Same.
I have seen no evidence that it's the case.
No, me neither.
Again,
but it would be a nice twist.
We're waiting for input from the other side.
Exactly.
We can't really because right now all the info we have came from an Asian. So
yeah.
And they don't really like
Hydaelyn. They know a heck of a lot more than us.
And their arguments about Hydaelyn don't feel that compelling.
No.
And you'd think they'd be able to most successfully argue why she's not good. I don't see why any arguments coming from Hydaelyn herself will convince us more likely that she is evil.
Yeah.
Just because Hydaelyn says she's good, though, doesn't mean she is good, because it's the same as getting the information from one.
I agree.
Side.
Yeah.
Neither of them will tell us
the same
truth.
as theorizing that Zodiac is evil. Because Zodiac probably isn't evil either.
No.
There's nothing to say that he was definitely going to just swallow up the whole world.
No, he doesn't necessarily want these rejoinings. This is something someone else is doing. So
Zodiac may not have even wanted people to sacrifice themselves for him.
Right.
Possibly not, no.
Yeah.
No, he may have felt bad about it. But the fact that he had such power just caused us to summon Hydaelyn as well. But
Yeah.
he could have been
Yes.
cool on his
Yeah.
own.
Yeah.
You never know.
Okay, well, on that note, I think it's time to wind down a bit. It's over. The show has ended. Thank you guys for watching this episode of Speakers of Hydaelyn, episode 160. Remember to follow us on Twitter. What?
Minimum eye level is Copperbell Mines.
Copperbell Mines tomorrow on Sunday. Minimum eye level. We don't spin the wheel. We're still 3 people. I can't believe we did all the cursed dungeons without Rollo. I feel like this is intentional.
Wow.
He's doing this just
He's doing it on purpose, yeah.
to avoid
quite-
those dungeons.
You're assuming we're going to beat Copperbell Mines tomorrow.
That's
course
true.
we
I
are.
forgot about that last boss is gonna on the second boss. Oh, anyways.
And the first boss.
Yeah, make sure you tune into that tomorrow. Follow us on Twitter at SpeakersXIV, twitch.tv/SpeakersOfHydaelyn, youtube.com/SpeakersXIV, exclamation Discord in chat if you want to join our Discord server. Send us MogMail, speakersxiv.com/MogMail. And if you're watching live, post-show will be right up, and God knows what's going to happen there. Goodbye!
Bye. Bye.